Hey guys, Daryl Dyke with Noble Mortgage and Investments, joined by my good friend Matt Trenchard from Senna House Buyers and our investor Charles Azih, who's the owner of this property. We are back at the Squatter House on Blodgett to finish our video series. This is video 3 of 3, so our last one. And today we're going to kind of talk about everything from soup to nuts, how he found the property, all the struggles he came about, how he did the loan, what he's planning on doing with the property, and so forth. So stay tuned as we interview Charles Azih on the Squatter House on Blodgett.
All right, guys, so today we're interviewing Charles Azih, the owner of this house here. So Charles, give everybody a little background on your real estate journey, kind of how long you've been doing it, what got you into it, everything like that.
All right, as I said, Charles Azih, Red Raider, guns up. As far as real estate investing, been thinking about it for a long time. Finally took the plunge about 3 years ago, or no, 5 years ago to be correct. In Tulsa, we bought a house there, and it was all about location, and that's kind of been my big thing going forward, is finding the properties in the right location. I guess prior to that, I was an engineer in the oil and gas industry. And always looking for different ways to kind of bring in some money and just do something different. As I said, real estate was always a goal, something I wanted to do. And as a drilling engineer, rehabbing a house is basically the exact same thing. You have some knowns and you have some unknowns, and you figure out from there kind of what you need to do. So it fit very well into what I already did. And I guess I kind of have not an eye for design, but I like designing. I like seeing the vision of everything.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it started.
So Charles, I think I know the answer to this question because you already answered, I think in your statement earlier, you like location. So let me ask you anyway, why you chose the Blodgett property?
Well, like you said, it was all location.
I was right.
I'm born and raised in Houston, so I know zip codes and certain things fairly well. And so once I saw it, and I was like, wow, there's not going to be many of these available. No way, no how. So it didn't take me too much time, and I said, you know what, let's just do it. Go look at it, see what happens. Worst case scenario, walk out and nothing happens, but best case scenario turned out, and walked around, saw a few things, but normal things that you would see in any house or any house that needs rehab. So kind of went from there, and like I said, location was perfect. I like the fact that all the other homes are already done, rehabbed, or just brand new builds, a lot of townhomes. So, and I like the area. Midtown is not far, Heights is not far, downtown, Ion District is here too. So it seemed like an easy answer for me.
Yeah, I agree. I love this area. This is like Museum District for those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
Right in the Museum District. So let's talk about the rehab of the house. What struggles did you run into during that process?
So the very first struggle that I had was when I got the keys and I tried to open the doors. I opened up, it's 2 units up and down, so I couldn't open this bottom door here.
It was originally a duplex, right?
It was originally a duplex.
Okay, yeah.
And so I went upstairs and I was just checking things out. I figured there was 50 keys. I just didn't have the right key and I didn't feel like fidgeting around with it. So I went upstairs, opened doors, came downstairs, tried to open the door, tried every key, and then all of a sudden the door unlocks on the other side, and I was like, this is not a good thing. But
yeah, never a good thing.
We'll see what happens. This is the
day of closing, right? Is the day it closed?
It was the very next day
after closing.
Okay.
Yeah. So from there, guy opens the door like he's just waking from sleep, and I was like, what are you doing here? He asked me the same question, and I was like, well, I bought the place. He's like, no, you bought upstairs, outside, and some other stuff here and there, but this is all mine. And I was like, okay, not sure that's how it works. But in my mind, I started going through everything. It's like, maybe I did just buy everything but this spot, but obviously that's not the case. So that turned into a 2, 3, 4 week ordeal of trying to get him out of the house.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, maybe it was more like 3 weeks, but it felt like months.
Yeah.
Just every day kind of counts, and I had people here trying to get started. So that was the part of it. And we had the cops here about 3 or 4 times, and his old address was here, so it was a big kind of mix-up. Turns out he had lived here once, or previously, maybe 8 years ago, but due to him moving out and some other stuff, he hadn't lived here, but he found out the house was sold and somehow snuck back in, which I found out every time I locked him out and changed the locks, where he managed to get back in and was just sitting on the porch. And I was like, wow, okay, you're better than this, I am. So,
hence the Squatter House.
Yeah. Hence the Squatter House, yeah. And so eventually we did get it figured out. Senna helped out a lot with that and getting, in contact with the seller and being like, hey, what's going on? So I did feel good that no one kind of just, I bought it, and then they pushed me off to the side. So that was good because it was like, all right, well, we're all on the same page. They didn't expect this, I didn't expect it, but we're kind of working together to get it figured out. So that was a good thing. That's one thing I do like, when you build relationships and it helps out. So that definitely helps strengthen the relationship that I have with Noble and also Senna going forward. So that's.
Well, that was the worst part. So what was your favorite part of the process?
Let's
the day
see.
the guy left?
Actually, the day that he got arrested because they got into a fight.
It's like his brother or something?
Yeah, his brother came, and we had several people.
Always.
The sister came and tried to convince him to get out, and the brother came, and they got into a fight. I was actually out of town that day, but I got a phone call that he was arrested, and I was like, perfect.
Get
it. Everyone start going, just start knocking it down. And when he comes back, there's nothing he can do at that point. But yeah, he did not, he actually did come back a few times, and he's probably just here somewhere. But the favorite part of the house was just knocking down the walls and actually putting a vision together. A lot of the older homes are like really boxy, as you guys know. And so there's like several doors. We had an area over here that had like 6 doors within a little 8-10 foot radius or 5 foot radius really. So it was like, all right, what do we do here? We had a bunch of walls and everything. So it was just about figuring out, how to get what's in my head to actually fit and make sure it works here. And so that was fun. And then actually seeing it when the layout was finished, although not, material wise, but the actual construction was done, the framing was good. So I was like, all right, I can see it. And now other people can see it. So, pretty much everyone that walked in here was like, oh, wow, okay. But now they're like, oh, wow, they kind of see where the change is and what happened. So that has probably been my favorite part. And a lot of people drive by, and even the neighbors have come up to me several times and like, thank you for doing this. It's been
I bet.
like, thank you, you know. So that's been great. And then, just the people that I've met in the process, some good, some bad. That's just kind of how life goes.
Sure.
But overall, just kind of putting the vision together and now seeing it actually come to fruition and, seeing the fruits of my labor and everyone else that's worked on the project. And, you guys have helped me out and worked with me on this one. So that was good. And, for me, I'm very loyal to the people that kind of helped me. And so, I'll stick like that,
We certainly appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, guys, so brief little recap in case you missed part 2 of this series where we talked a little bit about some of the struggles that we had in getting this deal closed and things like that. We'll get Charles's input as well, but going back, we had a kind of a day after closing day problem because we had a squatter in the house who wasn't leaving and saying that Charles actually didn't buy the entire property, which obviously ended up not to be the case. So when that happened, I got a call from Chris Robichaux, who was working on the file, and was like, hey man, what's going on? Like, this is a problem. We got an issue. And I think it was Good Friday, if I remember correctly.
I remember I was off that day.
And it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, oh man, here we go. So we got involved. I got my acquisitions guy involved. We got the seller on the phone. We were trying to kind of play the telephone game and figure out what was going on, what needed to happen. But luckily, since we didn't want to leave Charles hanging, we worked together as a team, all 3 of us, really, our company and Noble and Charles as well, to kind of get through those hiccups. So no matter what happens. So I guess we'll get Charles's input on kind of what was your experience like working with our company with Senna, because you had kind of gotten brought to the fold via Noble. When we said, hey, we need a buyer for this deal in the museum district, Noble's team was like, oh, we know the perfect guy for this. He's looking for this kind of deal. And that's how Charles got involved with us. So I guess give everybody your perspective of working with Senna House Buyers on this transaction.
Yeah, literally probably 2 days before that, I was like, man, I'd really like to find a multifamily property in Houston in a great location. And it was like somebody was listening to me because I got a phone call later from Chris, and he was like, hey, I got this duplex museum district. And I was like, all right, perfect. Let's go see it. It was meant to be. I guess from there, the process, since I never worked with Senna before, I wasn't sure. And when things happen, you start thinking the worst, and you're like, oh man, these guys screwed me over. This is really not a great thing. But with everything in viewing the house, I was always very helpful. Lucy helped me out a lot in getting kind of things getting things together, setting up viewings with the seller. And then once we actually got everything going, and I had the squatter here, you guys were very helpful in just like, hey, we're making phone calls, we got people on the line, we're trying to see what we can do. And considering that it was during a different time, things were we had the rental moratorium going on, so nobody could be kicked out, and I was like, man, that's just perfect timing. I've got really nothing else to do, but every time I made a phone call with, hey, can you guys see what's going on here? You got the brother involved, gave me their contact, sister involved, and everyone was kind of all hands on deck to figure out, hey, let's figure out how we can get this guy out so everybody can sleep easy. And it worked out in the end. A little stressed, but overall it wasn't too bad. It could have been much worse. I was going to start the rehab regardless of him living here. That was my mindset, like, hey, whatever happens. But cooler heads prevailed, and I was like, all right, let's just get him out first, so there's no type of liability, nothing to do there. Don't want anyone getting hurt on the job, or him accidentally falling, or whatever may happen.
Accidentally.
That was my big thing.
You
it was
broke
like,
my leg. I can't leave.
Something fell from the roof that was never even there, but all of a sudden it appeared inside. So, but yeah, it was good overall. I appreciated the help from everybody, top to bottom. So that was a great thing.
Cool. It's interesting. You mentioned that you were saying how you were looking for a multifamily in a good area in Houston. It was like somebody just heard it. But I think it's important. That's why you got to talk to the people you're working with and tell them, like, hey, these are the things I'm looking for. You never know when it's going to pan out or when somebody's going to remember that and think, oh, I need to call Charles on this, right? Yes. So if you're out there and you're listening, tell the people that you're working with or that you're interacting with what you're looking for, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. And you just never know when one's going to just magically appear 2 days later.
Manifesting.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So let's talk about how Charles came into contact with Noble Mortgage. Just from our perspective, we've been doing business with him for over 2 years, I believe. This is our 4th transaction that we did, and we started off as a hard money loan, and then we're actually closing on the long-term loan today because we do both sides of the equation, which is interesting. Just having to work out that way. He's closing literally in like 45 minutes.
Yep.
So anyway, talk about your relationship with Noble, how you came to us, and how that whole process works. And you talked a little bit about before we started recording about how you learned about hard money and being able to use leverage instead of having to use so much of your own money.
Yeah, so one of my best friends, or my best friend actually, he was the one who kind of brought me into it. I'd been talking about investing for a long time, and I was like, even on an extremely cheap house, 20% is still a lot of money. On a $100,000 house, that's 20 grand, 200,000, 40 grand. So I was like, there's got to be a better way. And I saw him and the way he was able to kind of scale so quickly. I woke up one day and he's like, yeah, I'm closing my 4th house, and I was like, oh wow. How long has it been? And so he kind of told me a little about that, and then kind of not really set me up, but more, gave me some notes to go by. And as you guys know, sometimes you just have to do it on your own and figure it out. They can teach you as much as you want, but at some point you do have to jump and make that leap of faith, I guess I would say. So he referred me to Noble actually, and he's like, these are the guys I use. I like having someone I can talk to and actually talk to, not a team of people where I'm talking to this person who's talking to this person. And so I really like that. I like that I have one point of contact, 2 if there's something serious going on and one can't get there. But for the most part, I can ask Chris. There's 2 Chris's there, but I can ask either one of them and they're able to answer the questions pretty straightforward. There's not a bunch of runaround. There's not a bunch of stories. It's, I'm a referral type of person. So once I was referred by one of my best friends, I was like, all right, these guys are gold, nowhere else to look. And so that's kind of how I've been. And I think that's one of the best parts about real estate is kind of building relationships with people. And, you never know what can be done or what's possible. But once you kind of have rapport and you guys kind of work together, then, almost anything is possible.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Chris Moore is a pro. He's been doing this almost as long as I have. And then Chris Robichaux, obviously, been doing it almost as long as I have as well, not quite, not to age myself. But yeah, it's been a great relationship between Matt talking to Chris on the elevator, to Chris talking to Chris Moore, and then finding you, and somehow the deal all came together. Yeah. So before we wrap it up, we always like to ask investors, like, what advice can you give? Like, you started off from, being in corporate jobs, so what advice could you give to new investors that are looking to get into real estate right now?
I would think right now there's a lot going on. Everyone knows the real estate market is super hot here in Texas, or just in general across the nation. But I would think the most important part is to know your numbers. Like, there's no reason to rush into a deal just to get in there and say you're now an investor or do anything like that. Like, if you buy bad, it's going to be bad. You kind of set yourself up for failure at that point. Not failure, but just not as much success. So, know your numbers, do your homework, and don't rush into it. If it feels right, then do it. If not, then don't do it. This is a long game. Quick money is fine, but it's not going to last. So yeah, that's pretty much. But I don't think I mentioned on this property, I do plan on doing Airbnb. So that was one of the biggest things that I actually what really drew it to me, because I was like, all right, location is perfect. I've got pretty much everything within a throwing distance. So I don't want to rent right now. You know, I'll do the Airbnb thing. It's a little bit more volatile, but for the most part, I found it to be pretty successful, and I'll continue going that direction.
That's great. Yeah, it's good advice. Follow your numbers, right? Stick to your numbers. Don't chase a deal, like I always say, or force a deal. Anyway, well, thank you for sharing your experience with us. And Matt, of course, thank you. Love doing business with you guys. And thank you guys for tuning in. This is the final of the 3-part video series. So we hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you on our next one coming up in the next several months.